Welcome to the More Than a Collector podcast. I'm your host, Matt Galvin of Straight Race Cards. This podcast is all about highlighting collectors' stories, where our aim is to go beyond the cards and understand the purpose and heart behind every collector. I hope you can join in on this journey as we run the straight race of life together, recognizing that each collector has their own incredible story worth sharing. I hope this podcast encourages, inspires you, and reminds you that everyone is more than a collector. Hey guys, welcome back to More Than a Collector, and I am just ecstatic about where this podcast has been and where it is going. And today we are going to introduce a guy that I am just thrilled to have on the podcast. He is a guy that I just has, really excited about cards, but he just is one of those like bread and butter, good old, he loves cards and he just loves the stories and people. And I have really been encouraged by his story and the way he has just used his channel to, further just this amazing hobby community. So I'm going to have him jump on here. Ryan, so good to see you, brother.
So good to see you, Matt. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. We've got Ryan Bullpen Sports Cards in the house, and it is really fun having you on, brother. So welcome to the podcast, and I'd love to hear kind of, for the listeners, just to hear your story and, tell us how you got into cards, how you got into this whole tomfoolery that is this vintage sports card world.
Well, it goes back quite a ways, really. My parents were the ones that really got me started in this, and I thank them for it. It was a bond that we had, and we still have it. And to this day, we still are, still collecting cards. They still go to shops and shows, and they enjoy coming here and chatting with me about my collection, what they pick up. And so really it all started, I want to say probably 6 or 7. We started going up to shows and card shops. I lived in a small town kind of up on the in the Kansas-Nebraska border. There was a big city, Lincoln, Nebraska, and we would always go up there for our card extravaganza hunts. And it was just, I tell you, just incredible and memories that I'll always have. So
are your parents still collecting then currently?
My parents are still collecting to this day.
You don't hear that, very often. I mean, there's a few people in this community that have that kind of heritage of collectors, but for the most part, that's not the case. So, is your dad a vintage guy like yourself, or
my dad likes vintage baseball. He also our team is the Royals, so he likes Royals and Chiefs. Obviously, we like to support our Kansas City teams, and so really, vintage baseball, modern, and he likes the modern baseball too, up to date with the Royals, so like Bobby Witt Jr. and all those guys. And so it's just something that we've been able to still carry that bond. And like I said, it's memories that I'll always have, and I love it. So
I find that just so incredible that you get to really, it doesn't sound like it's been a few years. It's really been this lifelong journey that you've gotten to, do and explore and, really grow in with them. And so, I mean, that's awesome. And then, now you've got some kids of your own, right, Ryan?
Correct. So, yes. I have a 4-year-old daughter and twin boys that are 2. Man, so just turned 2 in October. So
what a blessing. And so now it's definitely. You'll get to, hopefully one day get to pass that blessing along to them as well. And so all of a sudden you've created this incredible generational legacy of collecting. And it goes more than just collecting. It's like just being able to do something with your kids is always, I know my boys and I've gotten them a little bit into cards, and we're working on like a Topps Rangers project right now. And one of my boys' favorite things to do is their quote unquote, they call it their shiny binder of, it's literally just cards. None of them are worth anything, but they just like whatever cards they see that are cool to them. And I love getting to see like what makes them think something is cool. And it's like,
Exactly.
my
Exactly.
son
Yeah.
picked up a 89 Tops Ruben Sierra. It was a some Donruss Ruben Sierra. It was like orange and purple, and he was like, "This is so cool! It's going in the binder." And I
Nice.
just love to see his excitement about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, my daughter's just turned 4 at the beginning of this month, and so it's going to be fun, like being able to get her, and she might not be interested in the sports side, but if she's interested in like the Disney side of it, or non-sport stuff, I can't wait. I can't wait, and to go down that journey with her. And then when my boys get interested, because I'm pretty sure my boys, me being a sports fanatic, I'm pretty sure they'll grow to love, kind of what I love. So, but
Yeah, there's something to be said about that. And obviously it's true with your parents too. It's like when you love something, it becomes infectious and you pass it
exactly.
on to your
Yeah.
kids. I've
Yeah.
actually tested that out a few times. I remember listening to a radio station, and it was kind of funny. There was this classical music radio station, and every morning they would do this thing called the March of the Day, where they'd play like some like, be some band would play like an anthem, and it
Mhm.
was actually pretty cool. But I wanted to do a little experiment where I thought, okay, I'm going to just see if I get really excited on the way to school, if my boys will get really excited about the March of the Day, like something very just silly and
Mhm.
not, didn't really mean anything. But if I got excited, we'll see what happens. And sure enough,
Okay.
that was something that we look forward to every single day on the way to school at 7:38 every morning. They knew the March of the Day was coming on. And I think it's true in life and in cards. When we get
Yeah.
excited about something, they're going to get excited about it too. So that's
Sure.
awesome that you're already
Sure.
thinking about how you can pass that on to your kids.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's the passion for it, and us collectors, we have the passion, we know that, but if we're able to, like I say, pass that on to our children, it's even more of a blessing, you know, because what I want to instill with them is something that I hope they, when they go throughout their life, that they're able to do that as well. And so it is. It's just it's kind of a full circle, starting from my parents to me, and then now I'm able to hopefully do that with them. And so
Well, that's awesome. I am really excited to follow, along in that journey, especially because, your daughter is at that age where, she's just right at the, precipice of kind of
mhm,
getting into it, and it'll be fun
yep,
to
definitely.
see her journey, and then your boys as well. So that's fantastic. And so what gets you really excited right now in cards? Like what sets are you working on? What projects? I know from watching your channel, you've got a lot of different things going on, which is amazing, and I've loved
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
some of the things you're working
I
on.
have a lot of different avenues right now, and really I look back at this year and kind of the most of what I've collected and added, it's really been pre-war, which is kind of, you know, going into 2025, I didn't know if I was going to go down that hole. But I found, I'll tell you, the card that really started that this at the beginning of this year was when I scrolled eBay, and this was like right at the end of December last year. I scrolled eBay and I found a T204 Ramley card,
Mm.
and just an incredible card. And I saw it and I was like, that's in my budget. That might fit. I might be able to add that. That'd be a great first card for the year starting out. And it just kind of, once I received it, it just, I fell in love with it. I don't know if you've seen a Ramley, but they're just incredible looking cards once you get one.
The closest
So,
I have to that is I have one of those Ramley reprints that has an autograph on it of Charles
okay.
Behringer that
Uh-huh.
good old baseball collector might
Yeah.
give to
Yeah.
me. But man, there's the real deal though. I bet that's a whole new deep
It,
appreciation. I guess
yeah. Yeah. It did. It pretty much right when I got it, and I got it. it was about mid-January, because it took a little while, because we had a pretty bad snowstorm that hit Kansas at the first weekend of January, and
Oh,
so it
wow.
really delayed a lot of mail, and so it took a while for me to get it. I ordered it at the end of December last year, and it was probably the second week or going on mid month of January by the time I got it, just because of the delays with the postal service. But and when I received that card, I looked at it and I'm like, wow, this is just it was a card that, I looking at the pre-war sets, I was thinking, no, I would never be able to acquire one of those, I don't spend a whole lot of money on cards, but when I saw that, I was like, man, I have to add that to the collection. And so I did. And once I received it, I looked at it and I love that gold border. And then you look at the back of it, and it's got that embossed, into the back of the card. And it's just a beautiful card. And so I think it really led me to kind of change the direction of what I wanted to collect and start going down the pre-war a little bit, and just getting to understand the different players of that era and the different sets of that era. I think I wanted to just be able to, start learning more about it. So
That pre-war is a dangerous drug, my friend. That was
it
how I
is.
started in the hobby, was T206, and
Yes.
pre-war, all things related to pre-war. And I do think, to your point, there is something special about a pre-war card where it's truly, I love 50s and 60s and 70s
Mm-hmm.
baseball, but there's
Yep.
something when you peel back to those early 1910, 1920,
Mm-hmm.
those cards, really, I view those really as almost an artifact of a
Sure.
lost time, of an Americana, of where baseball truly was king. And
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
just a really special, when I have one of those cards in your hand, I don't necessarily feel that way on a 60s card, but when I hold a pre-war card that is 100 years old, there's a certain type of like awe to it and wonder, and you just feel this privilege of getting to steward something that is so old, and it's exciting for sure.
It is. It is definitely exciting. And like I said, I think that Ramley started it all for me when I was able to add that and then get it and just look at the beauty of it. I think it just instantly was like, maybe my first pre-war card shouldn't have been a Ramley, but
It's a
it
great
was
one to
just it
start
was
on.
it was basically just it was just beauty at first sight, and that's how I felt. And I was just like, man, I got to get down this, and I got to start learning about players from the era. I got to learn about these incredible sets, and I'm along for the ride, because I tell you, it's going to be quite the journey, I have a feeling.
Are
So
there, I know, I'd love to hear about some of your other pre-war pickups this year. Are there any other, pre-war sets or players that have really, struck an interest in your
yeah,
collection?
definitely. I'll show you my latest pre-war edition, and
Please.
it's not a baseball card. It's a non-sport, and you might have seen the video I've done on this, but it is just, when I saw this on eBay, it was a must, and it's the
Here,
1888.
I'll spotlight you here.
Okay.
Let's see if we can put you on the big screen. Here we go.
All right. It is the 1888 N224 Kenny Military Series Kansas card.
All right.
So this card was in, basically it was in Sweet Caparel cigarettes, and it was just promoting, Sweet Caparel cigarettes at that time. And so these were introduced, and this came out in 1888.
Wow.
And it's of the state of Kansas, which I live and have been a resident my entire life. And so when I saw this on eBay, and just the beauty of it, like, once again, it's got the gold background, and this one doesn't have much chipping. And in the middle of that is what, if you look at the Kansas flag, that is basically what is in the middle of our state flag. And so add aspera per aspera So to reach for the stars.
That's
So
beautiful. Wow.
yeah, so just a beautiful card. And when I saw it, I was like, yeah, this card can tie in, to what I'm also doing on the baseball pre-war side of it, because I also collect Kansas-born players, and so I can use this to tie into some pre-war pickups too, which is it's just a good piece. It really is. So, and it's got a little bit of staining up towards the top,
Sure.
but it's a card from 1888. That's like almost 137 years. So just
That's
unreal.
that's
So,
fantastic, and I think that's a perfect card, for your
so
collection that,
yeah,
you know,
definitely.
it's exciting when you can kind of fill a couple of different, collecting swim lanes, with
Hmm.
one card. So you've got the Kansas, you've got pre-war. That's
Yep.
awesome. What a
Yep.
great pickup. I
Yep.
wish they
And
had,
then,
something Texas related, but I don't know if they have, a, flag of Texas in, 1888.
well, I
We
mean, I
weren't
don't know
quite
if you've
there.
looked at those Allen and Ginner flag cards are kind of
Maybe
cool. So I don't know if you've, kind of looked at those, but yeah, they're,
I haven't.
Allen and Ginner, there's some late 1800 cards that Allen and Ginner come out with the states. And so it's just really cool. So I kind of lately, like I said, I kind of started looking at Kansas cards just for that fact. So, but
Yeah. Any other pre-war that comes to mind?
definitely, you probably have seen my big T206 purchase of the year, and I'll go ahead and share that with you. And it fits along with the Kansas theme, and you guys can probably, um, figure out who that is real
I feel like
fast.
we
And
need a
so,
drum roll for this one here.
all right, and this is the T206
Ooh-wee.
portrait Walter Johnson.
That is awesome. Talk about one of
So,
the most. I think that is one of the most iconic cards in the hobby. That
yeah, I
Walter
agree.
Johnson
It's
portrait, the yellow, the popped collar,
yeah,
the
the
iconic
W.
W,
Yeah,
his
definitely.
even just the way he's looking in the photo. That is an awesome card. That is fantastic, Ryan.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Thank you very much. This was a card I was excited in being able to add. It's still a card that I look at when I look at it. I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I have it. It's one of them type. When you get a card that iconic, and especially one, I don't spend generally. I don't spend a lot on cards, but when I was able to get this opportunity, and it was able for me to, I couldn't have passed it up really. And so to find one in this great of shape, just that yellow, how it pops. Um, there might be a minimal crease down here at the bottom corner, but it's very faint and very hard to see. So it's just a beautiful copy. And so just it's a card that will always stay in the collection, and it's something that will be passed down to my kids and my wife, and whatever ends up happening with me. But hopefully that they'll be able to enjoy it. And so um, it's just I mean it's kind of there's not many words to say. I mean it's just kind of just blows your um, kind of takes your breath away when you look at it. So,
It
but
does, yeah. That pre-war does something to you that,
it does.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
And,
when I saw my first T206 card, it totally my whole card collecting, knowledge just got totally exploded, and it was
yeah. And
unbelievable.
the fact of how many different players and all the different backs and combinations you can get with it just I mean it's just an incredible set if you think about, and I really something going into 2026 is, I would love to get a lot of the different backs for the T206s. That's something that, I'm going to strive, I think, going into next year is, adding maybe a Sovereign or an Old
Mhm.
Mill or, I mean, I have a polar bear, and those are easier to get, but some of those rarer back T206s, it might be, and not necessarily are they going to be Hall of Famers. I would be
Yep,
happy with just getting a card with that back. So
absolutely. I've seen
So
some really cool displays of, people will get some common players. They'll,
mhm,
they want to get an example of your Cycle, your Hindu, your,
exactly.
dare I say, broadleaf,
Yeah. The
maybe
Carolina Brights, the
that's right.
American Beauty. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just I mean, there's a lot of great looking ones. Really, I've targeted two different ones. I've targeted a Sovereign and an Old Mill, because those typically aren't too pricey. It's, when you start getting into, if you find a Hall of Famer with those backs, they can get kind of pricey. But when you're looking at like the American Beauty and the Carolina Brights, those get and the Hindu, those get pretty pricey quick. So,
Yeah, I've
but
always thought those Southern Leaguers with the Old Mill backs were really cool. I know there's
yeah,
a few Texas ties to the Old Mill
definitely.
backs
Yeah, those are
specifically,
those are
so I
cool.
definitely
So
want to
so
own
if I
those
had a
as well.
T206, it'd probably be an Old Mill or a Sovereign next.
Nice.
Is kind of what I'm targeting. So.
That's awesome.
So
I actually went backwards on T206. Unfortunately or fortunately, uh, unfortunately, I sold the T206 off that I had. Fortunately, it allowed me to pick up some other really neat cards. But I do want to, one of the goals I want to go back and do is definitely go after the three Mathewson T206 cards.
definitely.
And probably end up getting the speaker back that I
Mhm.
had, and then would love to own a Wajo portrait like you
Yes.
have as
Yeah.
well. 'Cause those are awesome. But
Now,
I have this weird for some reason I don't know if you know Mathewson's T206 cards, but he's got three. He's got his portrait, his white cap, and his dark cap. But for some reason I've got this like, thing of like in I feel like collectors have these like kind of barriers of like, this is what I want. And for some reason it's stuck in my mind that if I get a dark cap, the dark cap has to be in a polar bear back. A little
yeah,
bit of staining, but
yeah,
that polar bear for some reason is the sweet spot for me on
yeah,
that dark cap. So, and I do
yeah.
think
That's
that that polar bear and the dark cap, some T206 guy is going to call me out on this, but I feel like there's some connection there of that card has more in the polar bear back, not as much as a sweet cap or a Piedmont, but I think there's
exactly.
still quantity out there. So
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think all the Mathewson T206s are great. The card that I want to add for him, I think, and I would take a T206, but I think I'm targeting the T205
that is an
because
awesome card.
I just love the gold border and I just love the image choice that they put on that one. So, um,
Mathewson's face is just mesmerizing.
it is.
For
It
anyone that
is.
has not seen the T205 Christy Mathewson, what we're talking about, I would stop what you're doing right now, hit pause on this podcast, do a quick Google search of T205 Mathewson, and comment that your jaw is dropped after seeing
Yep,
the image because it is
definitely.
mesmerizing is really the only word I can think of.
It is. It is.
Captivating, maybe, but
If you can find one with a pretty solid gold border on it and just that image, for the T205 set, I don't think it gets much better than that card.
no,
I
I
really
don't think
do.
so. There's a few that I really like the speaker actually from the
Yeah,
T205 set as well, but
yeah,
and that's kind of I wouldn't call it under the radar, but I do think when you compare it to T206, it does not get as much love. But I think there is a lot to that set that is definitely worth looking into.
yeah, for sure. I'd agree. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So we talked a little about your pre-war, and man, you've shown some amazing stuff there. You've got your Ramley, your Walter Johnson, your Kansas. That is awesome. So what about some of the other projects? I know you've got a lot of great kind of post-war stuff as well too.
I do. Yeah. Kind of, my post-war, I've been kind of, I recently put out a 3-part Hank Aaron episode for my collection. Had a great time sharing that on my channel and sharing it with you guys. And Hank Aaron's one that I do collect, and those 50s, 60s, 70s cards. There's a few all-star and leader cards that I don't have Um, but if you go back on my channel and watch part 3, I go into more in depth of the base run, and I do have the entire Topps base run of Hank Aaron, other than just a few of the All Star and Leader cards, and so really I'm just going to pick up some of those, fill holes on that. I'll probably I would love to pick up a 54 Johnston Cookies Hank Aaron, but
Yep.
I don't know. That would be another considered rookie, since it was a 54. But it's kind of a regional one, and they're pretty expensive if you find a good one. And if I'm going to find one, I want a nice one because my 54 rookie's a pretty nice one. So I want to get a good Johnston Cookies if I are able to add one. So, but
That's a great little subset. I'd love to get the spawn from the Johnston Cookie set.
yeah, the spawn's
down the road.
nice.
So why Hank Aaron?
Hank Aaron, basically Hank Aaron, it started, I was really interested in high school. My senior year in high school, I really just started getting interested in Hank Aaron. And my parents bought me my first Hank Aaron vintage card. It was the 1969 Topps. And they were able to find it at a card show, I think is where they picked it up. Either a show or shop, I can't remember, but they were able to pick it up, and I think they picked it up same place where we went all in my childhood, up in Lincoln, Nebraska. And so just they were able to go to a shop and or show up there, and that's what started it. That card right there started it all. And once I got that was something like, I'm gonna start picking his stuff up, and then one card led to the other, and I saved the rookie for the end. So
yeah, perfect.
That's right. Save the best for last, right? So, but
well, that's awesome. You picked a great player and a great man. I know I own a couple of his cards. I think I just have the 56 and then the 63 NL home run leaders, where it's got the five Hall of Famers on
that's a good one.
Blue
That's
card.
Great card.
One of my boys' all-time favorite cards. So I've loved that one
with the floating heads, definitely. Yes,
floating heads. I feel like the floating heads are very love or hate. There's no one that's just like, they're okay. It's either like you're all in on the floating heads or you're all out.
Yeah, I agree with that. You either like them or you don't. And it's even better when they have more Hall of Famers on them, like the one you have. So that kind of helps a card like that, right? When they have more Hall of Famers on it. So, but really, when it comes, Eddie Matthews is another one that I did. So on the Eddie Matthews, I'm just missing the 52 Topps.
Okay.
So which
that's a big one.
That's the behemoth for him. So that's going to take a while, but eventually, the way I look at it is, eventually it might get added, and if it does, that would be incredible. If not, then I've got a filler reprint that suits fine for right now. So.
Great. But isn't that considered one of the most expensive Topps rookie cards of all time?
Yes, it is. It is extremely expensive, and even in a one, like it's going to cost quite a bit. So,
I'll be cheering for you to slowly, chip away at going after that goal, and I think that's a whole nother just exciting part of like getting to connect with other people is, you learn the story, you figure out what they're going after, and you can really appreciate like what they're doing. So like now, Ryan, when, one day, Lord willing, you pick up that Matthews, like, this community will have so much more appreciation for
definitely
where you've been, where you're going. And then when you climb a summit, like, a Matthews or some, another card, or your Johnson earlier this year, it's like, man, we can celebrate, and that is a sweet thing.
Yeah, Matt, the card story, he's been pushing me to get in that 52 because he just got one at Strongsville. So So he just, um, and I told him, I said, I'll eventually get one. So it might take me a while, but I'll get there. So, but
That's awesome. Well, are there any other facets or like I know you mentioned the Kansas like pre-war connection. Are there any other kind of unique facets to your collecting that you would say are kind of some things that are off the beaten path?
Um, I am I'm a Royals fan, so obviously I'm going to collect George Brett. That's another guy that, I have a lot of George Brett cards. He is my guy for the Royals. And so right now I'm working on his O-Pee-Chee run. So I'm trying to, I got all of his base tops cards. Now I'm just trying to get the O-Pee-Chee versions. Have the tough ones out of the way, the rookie and the 76. And now I'm just filling kind of the end cards, which I can go and get those at a pretty budget friendly deals. So I'm just trying to fill those in, the O-Pee-Chees and really, I have a George Brett binder and if there's, when I go to shows and shops and that, I look for ones I don't have and I pick them up and add them to the binder or top load them if, they're a little more got a little more shine or numbered or that, I'll top load them. But yeah, I really he's my guy for the Royals, and I do like modern baseball, so I'll pick up obviously a lot of the modern Royals like Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, those type of guys, which I enjoy collecting the current roster players as well. But yeah, I definitely have a joy of collecting George Brett and those Bo Jackson and there's a lot of great past Royals that you can that are very I think like a lot of people like collecting Bo Jackson, and so that's another player that's pretty easy to binder and add some great cards of. So but
I do think that you and I are very I'd say it's a double-edged sword, but we can look at it on the glass half full, is that we are very blessed to have teams, I'd still say that Dallas is like a quote unquote major market, but as far as like the Rangers go, they're not as much, they're not ever going to be close to like a New York Yankees or the
for
Red
sure,
Sox. And the same thing with the Royals, which I feel like in turn our stars, don't have as much influence in the hobby, and therefore we can get some really great prices on what I think are absolutely iconic players.
definitely.
I'll-
I mean, really, if you think about it, George Brett is the Royals' only Hall of Famer in the National Baseball Hall of Fame, and really, you know, his if you look for obviously a high grade rookie 75 tops, you're going to spend money, but pretty much everything after that is pretty budget friendly if you think about it. So you're definitely right on that. Is we are able to get our iconic stars of our teams a lot cheaper than your bigger markets, like you said. So
right.
it's
I was
great. I
shocked.
enjoy it. I love picking up different Bretts and different Bo Jacksons and guys from the 70s and 80s and 90s and all the way up. So
I was shocked the other day when I saw our good buddy Mike Jayhawker Vintage was
yeah,
selling a few Brett rookies, and I think it's a 75, but a 5 is still a great grade,
it is.
collector grade, and I forget what the price was, but whatever it was, I remember thinking, man, it's a rookie of one of the all-time greats of a set that is amazing, has got
It
great
is. Yep.
colors, of a great player, and again, I don't know what the number was. I was what like maybe a little bit north of $100,
Yeah. Yeah.
something like that. And it's like, man, that is incredible. And I
It
do
is.
think I was thinking about the same thing with even like Nolan Ryan. Obviously, a rookie is gonna drive some cost there.
Sure.
He was in New York, and he's got the California piece too. But I've got my Rangers boys and I are working on the Rangers set, and you can get Topps Rangers cards of Ryan for $1, and it's like
Yeah.
great.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
amazing, and
Yeah.
you know it's so fun to be able to it's like the collector's dream of getting cards we want, of the players we love at low prices,
Yeah,
which is great.
exactly. Yep. I have a 6 in the Brett rookie. So I have an SGC 6. So, and I'm quite content with that. Um, I mean, it's got great color, centered pretty well, no creasing. So I'm just thrilled to have this. So
Man, yeah, that every time I see 75, I I get more and more excited. I think that's kind of one of those sets. I think 75 and 71 are definitely on the my rainy day. Like I just love to kind of slow. There's a ton of cards, but I'd love to
yeah,
slowly pick off both of those two sets slowly, especially that 75 with those great
yeah.
colors.
75 is my favorite of the 70s, definitely. Just the colors, just yeah, like you say, the colors um, make it very easy to go after the cards. That's for sure. So especially when you're able to find them, 75 had a lot of issues with like the fish eyes and that. So you know, I when I look at 75s, I don't like those little fisheye marks on them. So
Right.
I try to find 75s with good color, with a very minimal of those fisheye marks on them. So and there it's hard because there's quite a few of them that have those. So,
I was
but
just looking at some Fergie Jenkins that I had because I've got a couple of copies of his Ranger 75, and I think every single one I've ever seen has fish eyes at the top of the
oh yeah,
card. So,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Usually in the borders or in the team name at the top of them. Yeah, they're usually. I actually had a PSA 4 Brett, and it had quite a few, and I ended up giving that to a good Royals friend of mine, and he just he enjoyed it, and so he now has that, and so and I was glad I was able to pass that to him, and so he has that now. But yeah, I mean 75s when you're able to get him, and centering, they're hard to get centered nicely, and so but if you're able to find ones that are got that bright sharp color to them, it was hard set to beat in the 70s, that's for sure. So
well, I really appreciate it now. I'm never gonna look at a 75 the same now after knowing
uh,
about the fish eyes. I was fine with it before, Ryan. Come on.
uh,
Uh, no, this is great.
yeah, I guess
Uh,
but some people are more into centering. I'm not as much into the centering aspect. I'm more into like good color and you know as few print defects on them as possible. And I understand. You're gonna find miscut cards and they're gonna be off centered and that. I'm fine with that as long as they present well and they have good color and no creasing. I'll buy them all day. So.
yeah, I think I land probably in a similar, not quite the same camp, but definitely in a similar camp where I would say I probably put the biggest premium on the color and registration of a card, and then
Definitely.
centering would be close behind for that. But yeah, for me, it's like if I can get good color and decent
Yep.
registration, and the centering is like I'm not looking for it to be like you know dead, lock
Hmm.
on centering, but
Yeah.
good, basically good enough to where my eyes won't be bothered at it. If I like look at a card and then, come back to it and look at it again and not bothered to it, it's usually a good sign. And that could be a 60-40 or,
Yeah.
maybe a
Sure.
65-35, depending
Yeah.
on the card and the set. But I think I have become a little more of a centering snob as my collecting has grown. I've
Yeah.
gone from just wanting a card to being a little bit more intentional,
Yeah.
which I do think is part of what as we evolve as collectors, we do find shifts in how we collect, what we collect, and it's a fun process. How have
Yeah.
you seen that process in your own collecting?
I mean, yeah, I agree. It's just, yeah, you just kind of, you have your ways and on what you want to have in your collection and what you can tolerate, with when you look at a card and, there's no set right way or wrong way on how you do it. So it's just, I think each individual person finds what they like. If they're more interested in the color and the registration, or if they're more interested in the centering, or that, we all have, we all collect the way we like. And so that's what I would say on that is just enjoy and collect, buy the cards that you like. It might not be something that the next person likes, but if it's something that fits into how you collect and the style of what you're looking for, then add that. So,
And I think that's a really good piece of advice too, because especially as you watch for anyone listening to this podcast, there's probably a good chance that you're consuming other sports card related content out there. And I do think we can get caught into watching everyone else's videos and seeing the things they pick up. It's training our brains to like, oh, well, this is what I need to be looking for.
yeah.
But the reality is to your point, Ryan, is we don't need to be looking for the card that, Joe Schmo picked up. We need to be looking for the right card for our collection. And like a good example of that would be for me, like I couldn't, care 2 cents about, the corners of a card.
Yeah.
Like they could be, as, round as can be, if the
Definitely.
centering and the color
Definitely.
and registration is great with me, I'm pretty much a happy guy. But
Yeah.
that's going to bother a majority of people out there. And so I've had to kind of convict myself of, hey, like don't be so invested in someone else's collecting style that you have to try to follow and emulate their own collecting journey. Like I'm not going to go after cards that are 6 and 7s in the 50s. I'm going to stay in my 3, 4, 5s, and that's great.
Exactly. And it goes down to budget too, because not all of us can spend, what the next person can, and so some of us, have to sell cards of our collection in order, that's kind of what I do is I have to piece cards out of my collection that I'm not as interested in order to, if I want to add new stuff to the collection, I got to kind of sell off what I'm not as interested in, so it's just one of them things. We all have different budgets, and we all have to, be responsible with that, and use just use common sense with that. Like, don't feel like you don't have to go and I don't need a 1954 Hank Aaron and a 7. I don't. Actually, I prefer it to have a little character. So I mean, that's just the way I look at it. So
I have always been skeptical of seeing a tobacco card and like a anything. You see like a T206 and like a 7, and you're like, huh, that doesn't feel like it's 100 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I do think that there's some serious wisdom there. We do want to steward the resources we've been given well, and in collecting, again, we need to be mindful of everything we spend. I know you and I are both guys with young kids, and so like the worst thing we could do is blow a ton of money on something just because we want it. It's like, no, like we got to keep our families in mind. We got to keep our kids in mind. And collecting is awesome, but at the end of the day, we just have to be very careful on everything we do.
Sure.
And our kids are also watching, by the way, if you haven't noticed.
That's true. That's true. They will pay attention to everything we do. That's for sure. So,
and that's another convicting point for me is like, even, I had friends come over and they're like, do you really need all this stuff? And I'm like, well, that is convicting. And so you have to, kind of check yourself before, purchasing and be careful. And so, it's a journey that will continue to grow and learn in. But I know I'm not perfect by any means. But
same here. I have a lot of cards in there. I have cards that, hopefully going into next year, I want to get more organized and get them, um, better sorted and easier for me and being able to know exactly what I have and where it's at and all that. And that's a goal for next year for sure, is to get more organized and kind of clear out some of the stuff that I'm not as interested in and either use that to add to the collection, or you're, like you say, add it to, what we're going to need to spend in our families. So, but
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, I think there is a lot of, I feel like people can get caught up into like, you have to be buying cards to find joy and satisfaction in the hobby.
mhm.
And I would say, that's a very small piece of the
Yeah,
puzzle. Cards are awesome, but they are not the entire part of the hobby. And it's like, man, I get so much joy getting to have conversations like this. Like,
yeah,
this is
exactly.
part of the excitement that I get in the hobby. Or even like you said, doing a project like going through and reorganizing your collection in a way. I was, right before we jumped on, I was like cataloging my cards so where I could pull them up on my phone. If anyone asked me like, oh, show me your collection, I could show every card on my phone of like images. And there's so many great ways that we can enjoy the hobby without ever having to go on eBay and spend a dime. So
Definitely,
have you
definitely.
found, like, there are any other specific ways you can think of that you've found enjoyment out of the hobby without actually having to buy cards?
Yeah, definitely. So I have, down here in my basement card room area, I kind of have like a bar top setting. And it's really, I call it the card bar. And basically, I have like display stands set up, and I have boxes behind that down below on the back side of the card bar. And what I do is, it's kind of after I get the kiddos down, put down for bed, I come down here. I got a TV sitting on top. I turn on a little bit of sports, and I'll either watch hobby YouTube, or I'll turn some sports on, and I'll pick some boxes, or I'll have some stuff sitting out on here and just enjoying my cards. And you know, that's that brings me joy, And yeah, you like you said, it's always good to buy cards. Sure, we enjoy getting, mail days and this and that, but when you're able to come down here and spend time, in the evenings for your unwinding, for the day, and you're able to pull out a binder or a box, and or if you get a display like I do on back behind here, is I can just look at cards and enjoy them. So
Yeah, I still was thinking about when you were showing your display cases, talking about how you scored some sweet display case Facebook
definitely,
Marketplace deals. So it's out there, guys. You
yes,
have to be
yes,
more careful. You might be able to see there's a little cardboard box there in the corner, and it may or may not be a second display case that is a Christmas present that my wonderful wife ensured me, do not open this until Christmas. This
very
is
nice. I'm
Christmas
excited to see
present.
you get it filled up. That's for sure.
But
So
no, it'll be really fun when
yes,
Christmas comes to put that up.
yes,
I've decided that I feel like I've always had this internal fight on whether I want to have track and field cards displayed or baseball cards displayed. And now I'm
yep.
like, this is perfect. I can
There
have
you go.
a non-baseball case and a baseball case. So everyone
Right.
wins. So there
That's
is
right.
some magic to going and just, like, I love people like, oh, are you worried about your cards being like damaged or stolen or whatever? I'm like, well, I can buy a, whatever, $50 insurance policy like for the year.
Mhm.
Like, okay, great.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have my cards out because I want to enjoy them. My cards aren't
But
meant to be stuffed in a box to never see the light of the day. I want to
yeah,
enjoy them. I want to tell people stories and legacies and cherish every single card I have. Because if not, then
exactly.
like, why do I have these cards anyways?
Yeah. No, you're definitely right. Like that shelf that you're talking that I found on Facebook. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have went back. I had an episode, several episodes back on my channel, and I was able to find this incredible incredible wood display shelf on Facebook Marketplace for $20, and I couldn't believe it when I saw it and I looked at it. And then the gal that brought it to where I work, she brought it up there, and I took a look at it. And I'm like, wow, that is incredible. And it holds 116 cards in it. What I have in it right
My
now,
goodness.
and what I have in it right now is I have my Royals card. So I start, the first card is a Jackie Robinson Monarchs card, a newer issue, obviously, but I started it back from Jackie Robinson into a Monarchs to the very ending card, a Jack Caglione. So, and it all just categorizes, throughout the years. I've got, from, I got 50s, Kansas City Athletics all the way to present day Royals. So it's just really fun. And when I was able to find that shelf, that's kind of what I had in mind when I found it. So it just fit perfect. So
That's awesome. Well, I had $50 in my mind for how much you spent for that. Now I'm even more blown away that it was $20. I don't want to tell you how much the display case was in the back that I paid for.
Yeah, I tell you, those display cases for shelves you're going to spend some good money on them, and they're not cheap, most of them. So, but they're nice. A lot of them are nice, but yeah, you're gonna spend more than at least 50 on them. So, generally, so no, I definitely found, I was definitely lucky in being able to find that, and it just fits well because that's kind of where I have it. Is I have a lot of my Royal stuff, so I have autographed. I have like an autographed Lou Piniella program. I got some of the 2015 World Series, when the Royals won the World Series in 2015. I got some 85 stuff. So just kind of, I got a wall designated for Royals, which is really cool, and how it just kind of blends in. And it's just a great display. So,
man, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think you picked the perfect way to use that display case by showing the Royals off. That's amazing. Well done, my friend.
Thank you very much. It's something when I come down here, I take a look at it because I just love how I chronicleize it from the beginning to the, present day. And I've got moments from, like I say, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way up. And there's a lot of great, great moments of when they won World Series represented. And it's just cool. It's just a cool piece. So.
That's awesome. And, remind me, how long have you been doing the YouTube thing now?
I started my channel at the beginning of August of this year, so a little over 4 months.
Okay.
So
what was the impetus to dive into this crazy YouTube community?
Well, I tell you, I was one of those people that would just watch. I wouldn't comment. I would just watch a lot of people's videos. I'd come down here and, it kind of took me some, a little bit of, courage, I guess, to build that up. And a lot of, I was like, well, I have good enough stuff to have a channel and start a channel. And I was like, yeah, I finally got over that, and finally got over, being nervous. I still am a nervous, shy guy, especially if I don't know you till I meet you. And then I start to open up, but I'm typically a pretty shy, reserved guy until I meet someone. And so I think that was my biggest hurdle to get over, is just the fact of, just being able to hit that button and get it started. And two guys that really influenced and I appreciate and really kind of jump-started me and getting this all started was Matt the Card Story and Alex Bowman 53. Those two guys probably had most influence on me wanting to start a channel. And I've watched several, there's several great channels, Mangini and Mike Baseball Collector, and there's a lot of great channels out there, and I enjoy watching them. I'll try to watch every single video that they put out. And so, but those two guys that I mentioned, that I would have to say they were the ones that really got me, was like, yeah, let's go ahead and get this started. Because it was just something that, I saw what the community was meaning to all these people that were starting channels up, and just the camaraderie, and just the friendships, the brotherhood of it all, and just something that, like, let's go ahead and get this started. So
Yeah, I think to your point, yeah, and I love both of the. I don't know Matt over at the Card Store. Definitely know of him, and seen some stuff, and have gotten to talk a little bit with. I think it's Alex Bowman 53, but yeah, great guys and great channels you mentioned. But I do think, yeah, it's been fun seeing your channel, man, and
thank you, appreciate
again,
it.
it's to your
Likewise to
point.
you. I enjoy watching your stuff too. Every video you put out, I enjoy checking out. So
Well, it means a lot, and I think I was in a very. I think we can speak for both of us that we are in the camp of, hey, we might not have the best stuff. Like, is this worth going in, and
yeah,
getting ourselves on camera when we don't have the
exactly.
quote unquote expertise or the
Yeah, definitely.
prestige of some crazy, crackerjack collection or something like that.
Yes, definitely.
But the reality is, whether it's one card or, 1,000 cards, like, man, your story is worth sharing. And this community is really welcoming and wanting folks to jump in, and
Yeah,
the water's
definitely.
warm, please. And
That's
for
right.
both
That's right.
for
So
for two guys that have both started their channel this year, you know, for me, it's been this incredible, outpouring of generosity and
definitely
just more than that, just amazing friendships, and not just friendships in cards and commenting. It's real life friendships. Like, even I got to talk on the phone. I've talked on the phone with 3 or 4 guys even this week, of guys that I just really respect and think highly of, and
yeah.
that to me is really, really special.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, cards are great, and having them and getting them, but like you said, the friendships, and that it means more. It truly does, because when you're able to go to card shops and shows, and go on trips or stay in hotel rooms with people that have common like interest with you, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that, in my opinion. Like, my wife, she somewhat talks a little bit about cards with me, but I mean, I can't get full on in depth conversations with her about it. So when I'm able to, go out and speak and talk with you, or just anyone on here, and jump on here, and come out with a video, it just makes it worth it to get started. So
Yeah, definitely, adds a lot of color and meaning to our collecting. And I think
definitely
that's a intangible that you really can't put a value on, and it's
agree.
special, and it can
Yeah,
only be experienced when you jump in. So I feel like every one of these podcast episodes I've done is an encouragement to people to jump in, and why we really double down on the fact that relationships are what's important in the hobby. Like, cards are great, but they're not the end result. If all we had were just cards and it were just us in a room, like, it'd be fun for a day or two, but at the end of the day, I think personally it'd be kind of sad.
it would. Yeah, it
And
would.
so we want to experience the joy and celebrate with others in their journey, and that's
Yeah,
why I get so excited about this podcast, because this podcast is all about getting to celebrate and share other people's journeys, like yourself, Ryan. So
definitely, definitely.
it's a joy, it truly is, and
Yes,
relationships are where true life can be found in the hobby.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you said it all right there. Like, I mean, when we're able to collect what we like, because we all have our individual likes, and what we want to have in our collections. You have different teams and players than I do, and it's just that right there is what's fulfilling. Is we all have different players, different reasons and styles on how we do it. And there's no right or wrong way to it. It's just how we go about it. And on my channel, I'm gonna just really basically just share cards with you guys. Just share, just share my love, my passion for it, and just you won't hear any of the hobby drama stuff. I'm not looking forward putting any of that out there. I just want to talk cards and share cards and keep it positive, and that's how this should go, in my opinion. So.
And man, that's one thing I've just really appreciated about you is you are a no nonsense man. Let's just dig into the
Yep.
the meat of the
Exactly.
cards, and it's fun. And
Yeah.
I learn a lot from you, brother. And it has
Same thing with
been
you, Matt. Like, just your journey has been awesome to watch too, because I love that you collect alkaline. That's awesome. And just your diamond stars. I love, and your 56, sets that the Hall of Famers. And it's just been a blast watching what you put out there. And so, like I said, I appreciate you. And like I say, I don't miss a video that you put out. So.
well. Thank you. That means a lot. Well, any final words here as we wrap this up?
I
Any
don't
words
think
of
so.
wisdom?
I'm just very appreciative that you asked me to come on, and I knew we would have a blast talking cards and talking, just all great things about this hobby. And so and just like I said, just appreciate you. Thank you for asking me to be a part of this, and like I said, and just enjoy the friendships along the way, and the brotherhoods of it all, and the common likeness of what we enjoy doing. So.
Love it, man. Great words. Well, where can people find you?
All right. Well, you can find me at Ryan's Bullpen Sports Cards on YouTube. I have a Facebook page, Ryan's Bullpen Sports Cards. I do have an eBay where I sell on there as well. And then I have Instagram. But my Instagram is under my full name, Ryan Hageman, but it's not under Ryan's Bullpen Sports Cards. But it's pretty card heavy, my Instagram. So I just enjoy sharing. Like I said, I share, a lot of stuff that I have in the collection, what I pick up, and just like I said, just enjoying it. So.
Love it. Well, everyone, please go subscribe to Ryan's channel. I know you'll be encouraged and inspired because his journey is definitely one worth following, and you'll learn a lot. And yeah, so go subscribe to Ryan. So Ryan, thank you so much for coming on, brother. Grateful
You're
for
sure
you
welcome.
as a collector, but more than that, a friend. And it's
Definitely.
truly a joy, brother. So
Definitely.
grateful
You're
for you
welcome. I
and
appreciate it.
for
Thank you for having me on. And like I said, I appreciate everything you do, and just what you bring to the hobby community, because, you're a joy, and it doesn't get much better. Matt, like I say, I enjoy hearing your stories and the cars that you share, and your passion. So just love it, brother.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, if anyone else, wants to share their story or connect more with either of us, please reach out. We would love to hear your story and connect with you guys. But in the meantime, thank you all so much, and keep running the straight race. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you, guys.